on, and I will try to also catch up a little, if possible. I want to give you a glimpse of the second project in which me and Jan collaborate on ecosystems. And for those of you who were here in the morning, I think you all heard Ödjard referring to how partnerships look different. I think that is very interesting, and that is one of the things that we look into this project. So how are the business ecosystems being shaped, and how can we intentionally reshape them to improve our own position in the business ecosystem? So that's part of this project. We have also here a great group of companies with whom we collaborate, and we also have a group of companies that we are either looking for opportunities together with, exploring workshops, different interactions, and companies that used to be very active but now have more of a listening in role. But these are the ones at the moment, and we are very happy for the engagement throughout the sprint. So again, this is all about digitalization, digital transformation, and the very many new ways in which companies collaborate, compete, as well as the ways in which we sell and monetize our systems. Previous sprints were very much dedicated to the whole area of service innovation, service development. How do we complement our physical offerings? How do we monetize on a more continuous basis? What are the novel ways in which we can basically create new revenue streams with the intention to not only add to the existing, but to, as I said, create entirely new recurring revenue streams? So that's part of what we spent previous sprints working on. And that, of course, involves, not the least, the ways in which you interact with other stakeholders. This is a framework that we developed a couple of sprints ago. It was published as well, where we basically outline what it takes and what the stages are that a company goes through when moving from a more traditional, product-oriented, transactional company towards digital, towards continuous monetization, and towards exploring new technologies more on the software, AI, and of course data side. So in the middle here, you see how the business model changes. And this is really interesting. It is not so that product sales would not be there. Of course it stays. But it shows different ways, additional ways, and novel ways in which you can monetize the product. Offer it as a service, add services on top. Customer KPI-based business models, that's the one that I referred to in my first presentation when I said AB Volvo could monetize on the number of successful deliveries, for example. So you have a customer KPI that you seek to deliver upon and fulfill, and in that way you monetize. The last step refers to a model where you have, so it's called a multi-sided ecosystem model, where you basically collect data from your existing customers, but you monetize it with someone else. This transition and the business model opportunities also mean that you exploit data in different ways. So data collected from the field that used to be more on the diagnostics and quality assurance side then is used for completely other purposes or complementary purposes to be able to actually do evolve in the business model steps here. But this model is one that we typically use. Then also last sprint we developed this. This is only in relation to service innovation and monetization, where we look at the different types of value that companies in the software center provide their customers with. So going back to customer value, Robert, those consist of very many different things. Typically we see, and the text is a little small here, but maybe you can see, there is product-oriented value, where you basically provide customers with, you check performance, those product health, preventive maintenance, those things that make the product work well. You have more outcome-oriented value. You could provide customers with insights. That's a value in and by itself. You could have, for example, device and life cycle management of your systems, etc., etc. So value, there are different value types, and you can monetize these in very many different ways. The challenge is that, of course, what is easiest, the product-oriented value, is also most often the things most difficult to monetize, because these are the things that the customers typically take as a given. It comes with a product, I used to get it for free, why would I pay for it? So the more advanced you get, or the more you climb the stair, the more monetization opportunities there are. But of course, those services also require or they involve more challenges. But this refers to the very many different types of value that we see companies provide their customers. What we notice, and I also think we heard it this morning, the access to customers is still a challenge. To really learn what adds value is a challenge. To be able to go and test hypotheses, to be able to do MVP development and to evaluate, that is still really difficult. Even if companies are well aware of that they need to do it, it's the only way to do it, etc., etc., it remains a challenge. We heard about design thinking this morning in the talk by Janne from DIFE. They are not the only ones. I know at least one person in this room with design thinking being very close to his heart, or we're always working with this, but it doesn't mean that these things are easy to adopt. It takes time and they need to be translated into something that works in a B2B context. So there are lots of challenges involved in new service innovation, not the least when it comes to how do we involve with our business ecosystems. And that's, of course, one of the things and the key thing in this project. So we have looked a little bit upon what kind of view do we take on ecosystems in this project, and what do we see the typical view being. And while many previous papers and previous studies, and also I think as researchers and as practitioners, sometimes tend to think about ecosystems as cast in stone. It's one company, one ecosystem, but it's not at all like that, we realize. So if looking at your companies, it's typically lots of very many different ecosystems depending on the functionality or the part of the system that we are talking about. They are continuous. They can be changed. They need to be changed, and you are the ones who can reshape them. And what we see missing is more of a company-wide perspective on how to think about ecosystems. It's easy to maybe think about one like commodity functionality, we outsource it or we use some kind of other strategy, but how to think about the business-wide perspective on ecosystems. And that is, in our view, an important part of this and definitely key for this project. So if we look back at this model that we have been using since it was published in, I think, 2013 by my colleague in this project. Something can start in the innovation ecosystem, but it doesn't stop there. I mean, at some point, it is transitioned into the differentiating part of the organization. That's when you start to monetize on an innovation. And over time, and at some point, it becomes commodity. And then you would want maybe someone else to take care of it, or at least you would want to minimize your own costs and efforts involved. This goes for, in principle, all functionality, I would say. It can start out in the innovation ecosystem, and then it transitions into something else. And what you then realize is that for these different ecosystems, you need different engagement models. Just to mention a few examples of things we, I think, are all aware of, or at least have heard of. So one example of an ecosystem engagement model is what Siemens referred to as a marketplace. This was launched, I think, this fall, early this fall. They call it Siemens Accelerator, where they basically pull partners together, open up for customers, developers to foster innovation in a kind of marketplace way of working. They look to drive innovation. They look to have third parties contribute and use the platform they provide. So that's just an example of an engagement model where you then also wish to monetize things that are developed. Another ecosystem model is that is typically talked about as in this is how you can scale. It's a scaling model. I just took Covisa as one example. An ecosystem model where you look to open, collaborative, it's an alliance more to accelerate connected vehicles and solutions within that space. In-vehicle, on-edge and in-cloud services, all kinds of innovation efforts where parties go together to scale efforts they couldn't achieve by themselves. We have other examples, D2D mobility solutions, basically door-to-door, from leaving my house to reaching a point. You have peer-to-peer rental services, you have micro-mobility, you have the whole ecosystem within mobility going together to create a solution. And we know the automotive value chain with the tier 1s, tier 2s, tier 3s. So there are lots of different engagement models. What we are looking into are, of course, what are the ones we see in the software center companies? How could you optimally engage with whom and at what point in time? So that's part of the work we do. And we have started working on a model where we look at 4 different engagement models, but not only the model in itself, the outsourcing being a model in which you as a company hand over something, you give it away to one partner in order to stay in control, for example. You basically hand it over, do this for me. The preferred supplier, and this model can then be used to build a preferred supplier network where you have a few suppliers working with you, a larger network, and then in the end a marketplace, basically an ecosystem where stakeholders compete to offer you something. And there could be a continuous flow. There is an evolution in between this. So it is not necessarily that you are in one and you stay in one, but they can be used strategically to let go of something, to build up a network around certain types of functionality, etc., etc. We have started working on this model, and we are very interested in engaging with not only the ones that we are already working with in this space, but also the other companies. There is a lot ongoing in how to strategically let go of parts of your functionality, meaning also that you need to create the APIs for someone else to actually help you out. Those types of questions. During the sprint, we had a number of publications, and since Jennifer also outlined the ways in which they work, we work in similar ways in that we do company on-site workshops, company-specific workshops, and we also do joint efforts. In the next sprint, and this will be my very last part, we will focus our work, or we propose to focus our work on the repositioning aspect. To not stay within the conception or perception that an ecosystem is cast in stone. We think it is everything but cast in stone. It can be shaped, reshaped, and we need to reposition to change structures, power, and to improve our own position. Not the least in relation to new service innovation. You need to take on roles that used to be done by someone else. That comes with a number of challenges because you will step on someone's toes at some point in time. Experimentation-driven ecosystem repositioning to me sounds beautiful, and as something that I hope also attracts some of you in the coming sprint. We look to help you out step by step in how to actually do this. How can you start small scale, maybe with one stakeholder, to then broaden and scale and reposition in the larger ecosystem? That's what I hope for. And I hope you agree that it sounds as a promising start of the next sprint. So thank you very much. I see a question.
Who has the question? John. But of course, John.
Hi. Thanks, Helena.
Thank you.
I think I miss something here.
What do you miss?
I think there is a less is more principle here, which we usually miss when you try to engage in a new kind of ecosystem, because the size and complexity of the change needed in our thing or system will be inversely proportional to the success rate. If we intend to make something big, we will usually lose it. So I think maybe you should also push and try small and succeed faster, because the speed of your success in this little project or challenge is really, really important. And also the success rate is really important. So maybe you should push more on the start really small.
I think you are actually completely right. And I know someone else who refer to, we are super good at scaling, but we tend to start by scaling, and that's not always optimal. So I fully agree.